Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my illiterate friend Frank. How are you today?
Greetings! I was hoping you wouldn't tell them my big secret, but the reason that I podcast is because I need to hear things. I can't actually read them because, as Tim noted, I am illiterate. It was a secret. I was doing a pretty good job of hiding it until now. But that's it. It's over.
But I gotcha.
I had a good run.
That's good. That's good.
I'm going to go back to listening to audiobooks now and looking at pictures.
Do you count audiobooks as reading?
I do. Absolutely, I do.
Okay, I'll rephrase. Do you count it as reading the book or reading, I guess? Like, if someone says, oh, have you read the new Dan Brown book? But you listen to it, you go, yeah.
Yes.
Because you went through the story.
Yes.
But because you're listening to it, is it technically reading?
It's not technically reading, obviously. It's not the act of reading, but I read the book.
Okay. That's,
Yeah.
I guess yeah.
If someone on our last episode, you mentioned Slugfest, and I said that I was halfway through it, I'm listening to it on audio.
Right.
But I've consumed the book just as much as you have.
Mm-hmm.
So I consider it, yeah. If someone talks about a book, I'll say, yeah, I've read that. Yeah, that's good. I like it. Or I don't, or whatever. Like
That's good. I am the same way. Actually,
I count it. It counts. It totally counts.
It counts. Also, we travel so far for work and all of this stuff for all these other things. Like, I don't have time to read books the way that other people
not always
send to do. Not always. I have time to read some stuff, but it takes way more time. So it's just easier to listen to it because I can actually get stuff done.
And being illiterate, it's kind of the only way I can consume a book. So.
That's right. That's right. Well,
that's why I like comics so much. Pretty pictures.
Pretty pictures. Sometimes comics get weird and too complicated, and I don't know what's happening.
It's true.
Words or art. Anyway, Frank, even though you can't read the can, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm told that this is a new Belgium Fat Tire.
Oh, I love a good Fat Tire.
I know, right?
Yep. The nice bar near work just started carrying Fat Tire, and it is marvelous.
Love it. That's great.
It's good. It is. It's good for all of us. I, meanwhile, am going to stab your Fat Tire with my can of Harpoon. I am drinking Fresh Tracks, which is a Brighton floral hoppy spring pale ale. It is very. Actually, have not opened the can yet, so if you'd indulge me with a can sound,
please do. Good
Thank
one.
you for making that sound with your mouth. Thank you very much.
Fresh Track. I've definitely had Fresh Tracks. I feel like we had it at my place sometime last summer.
Definitely. It's so tasty.
Mm-hmm.
It almost has like a freshly mowed grass kind of like sensation, even though there are no little bits of grass inside my can. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry for your lack of grass.
Thank you. There's so very few drinks that really, how some drinks feel like a season?
Yes.
Gin and tonic is a summer drink, and porch rocker is a this, and so on and so on and so on. Fresh Tracks feels like a spring drink. It just makes you feel like spring, which is great because it's May,
Yeah.
It's already May.
It's yeah. it's doing its job already. So that's great. That's great. I love that.
That
is A+. Well, listen, a few minutes ago you revealed something about me that I didn't want anybody to know.
Mm-hmm.
There are other things that I don't want people to know. There are. I'm sometimes ashamed by other things. Don't be creepy. Things like if there's a movie I haven't seen that like I really should have seen, I get embarrassed. Or if there's a book that I should have read, and I'll sometimes get embarrassed. And I don't know about you, but I will sometimes just sort of fake it and play along and be like, yeah, I've totally seen that movie, and like I'll quote the one quote that everybody knows from that movie, and be like, "Yep, I totally know that. It's here's Johnny." Am I right?
I was gonna say, I was actually my joke was gonna be The Shining too. That's really funny for you to be like, I love The Shining. The part where he like buffers the car so it's really good in the sun, like it's good. The Shining, yeah, it's good.
So like. I feel like we've all done that to some extent. I have done it kind of a lot. I do it more with movies than with anything else. But I try not to anymore. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I would be embarrassed often if I hadn't seen something that I felt like I was supposed to have seen. And I'm generally pretty aware of a lot of movies. Most of the time, again, I've talked about this before with like Best Shot and things like that. It's usually something that I want to get to, but just haven't for one reason or another. So I'm usually aware of it, and I'll know the like what it's about or a general idea or a quote from it or whatever. But do you find that with like books and movies a lot too?
I do. As I get older, I've actually invested and have read a bunch of them. So, I used to have to do it with The Great Gatsby until I had to teach The Great Gatsby, so I actually had to read it. And, and that was great because I loved it and continue to. But sometimes those things kind of escape you. And so you have to fake your way through. Or like you said, it might be so much in the culture at this point, you can talk about it with never having made it to page 5.
Yeah. And I'm trying to be more honest about those things now and be like, you know what? I know it's crazy, but I've never read this. I know, judge me, but I've just never read this. I never had an opportunity to read this. I'm trying to be more honest about that. Why don't we come clean?
I was gonna say, let the judgment begin, Frank, and let us, because we're friends, let us react as people would on the street.
Oh, okay.
with what we have and have not read. We can do this with films another time. Let's start with books because I feel like, for whatever reason, books are a greater offender for this.
Yeah.
You haven't read the dictionary?
I don't know.
How dare you?
I feel like maybe this speaks to who our friends are, but for me, I feel like it's more with movies. I feel like people are more surprised when like.
Oh, I meant generically speaking. I think in our friend group, it's certainly you haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption. Blah 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 blah. Yep.
Yeah.
To which point,
all right.
I have everyone calm down. It's a great movie. Anyway, let's continue on. Frank, what is your first book?
Okay. I am going to go with and I think it would be fun if as we go along, this was your idea. If as we go along we say what we think this particular title is about.
Yep.
In my case, I have a little list here. In my case, some of them are like, "Oh, I've heard it's about this." But in some cases it's the title sounds like it's about this. So, I don't know. I don't know any better. No one's ever told me otherwise. For example, my first pick is one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Falls in that second category, and that would be Fahrenheit 451.
Frank, that is my first book.
No way, really?
That is my first. I will take a screenshot of it right now and send it to you. If you don't believe
great.
me.
That's too great.
That is my first one.
Oh my God, that's so great. Wow. Well,
I've never read it.
Never read it.
I've never read it.
I think it's about a building on fire, maybe?
It's I actually know what it's about.
So I'm right, is what you're saying. It's about a building that catches fire. It's 451 degrees.
I honestly
perfect temperature for
Up until about,
steak.
I would say 2 or 3 years ago, I honestly thought that's also what it was about. Like, oh, it must be about firefighters, Fahrenheit 451. I don't, that's, did they have to translate that in different countries? Celsius, 32.5, whatever it is.
Oh my God, I never thought about that. What is it called? In Canada, is it called like 200 degrees Celsius? Like,
yeah,
what?
right. I don't know what the difference is. So anyway. I think the book is about this like government sanctioned group that is equipped to burn all the books in the world because reading is bad.
Okay.
So it's a dystopian. The government doesn't want you to read because that allows you free thought. And so we're just going to tell you what to think with the TVs and everything.
So it's a book burning is
right.
where the title is derived from.
That's right. And
Okay.
one person rises above, or probably
Of
something
course.
like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure there's somebody out there, probably Scott from Suicide Squadcast is judging us real hard right now. And said, that's not at all what it's about, you idiots.
That was some shade thrown at Scott, but that
It wasn't shade at all. I'm complimenting him because he probably has been more literate than us.
That's also probably
No
true.
shade.
He's
Just saying, he's probably screaming at his iPhone like, "Oh my God!"
Now, I actually pretty sure that is what it's about because HBO is doing a movie with Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon, and I've seen the trailer, so that is about what it's about. There'll definitely be other books on this list that I don't know what they're really about. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah. So,
well, since I took your first one, what's your next in line?
My next in line is The Color Purple.
Oh, okay, yeah,
by Alice Walker. I've never seen the film. I've never read the book, and I, honest to God, have no idea what it's about. As far as the only thing I have to go on is that they turned it into a musical, which I saw when they performed at the Tonys, and it looked like it takes place in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's all I've got. So
Oprah, I know Oprah.
Oprah likes it. I remember that.
Oprah was
in it. Oh, okay, that's right.
And she produced the
film,
the musical.
Oh, okay. All right.
I remember when it opened on Broadway, she was on Letterman, and I guess she and Letterman had some kind of feud or something, or they snubbed each other for a while or something, and she was finally on his show, and it was like this big event, and then at the end of the interview, instead of just like, all right, we'll be right back with our next guest or whatever, because it's Oprah and you don't do that. You're not like, all right, well, Oprah's leaving and now, whoever, this person's going to come and talk about their movie. He actually took her arm in arm and they walked down Broadway to the theater to the premiere of her show. Like they walked outside the Ed Sullivan Theater and he walked her to the premiere of her show.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yes, I know that it takes place in the South. I think it's like post-Civil War South type of thing.
Sure.
But that's about all I know.
I think it's about clothes dyers, and they think, and purple is the color of royalty, and so they wish that they were royalty, so they put on some purple and fool the whole town into thinking that they're rich. But they're, in fact, just like everyone else. And then everyone learns to love each other at the end because we shouldn't worry about class divides, but just learn to love people as people at the end. Do you think that's what it's about?
That's beautiful. I have no idea, but that's beautiful. That's a beautiful sentiment you just laid out there.
I thought so. I guarantee you that's not what it's about, probably at all. I'm sure the color purple has to do with a flower or something.
I'm sure.
Yep. But that's all I've got about the color purple.
Okay. All right.
All right. What's your next one?
My next one is The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Oh, interesting. I've also not read it, but I don't feel like this is one that I ever have to feel like weird that I haven't.
Okay. If anything, I feel weird that I feel like it's one of those novels that maybe not. No. Even if you haven't read it, you know what it's about.
Okay.
Except I don't.
Okay.
So what I think I know,
Okay.
what I feel like I've heard this book described to me like in the game Telephone, and I was the last person at the end of the telephone, and I have to then repeat back to the first person what I think they said.
Yep. Sure.
And I think what you said, telephone person, was picture of Dorian Gray, an emo guy in Victorian England gets trapped in a painting or something, and when he looks at it, he goes into the painting. It falls apart real fast from there. Let me tell you, that's about all I think.
You really
when he looks at it, it's like a mirror, that world that he gets trapped in or something, and okay. When he's in the painting, the Mr. Hyde guy gets to come out, but then when he comes back, then he's Mr. Jekyll. I think I might be confused about which book this is.
All right, so
yeah.
I'll put that out there. I also haven't read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, if we're throwing that thing.
I haven't either, but I know that story because I saw Wishbone.
Exactly. And
actually, I should
many
say,
versions of it.
Yeah, when I was putting together this list,
you thought about Wishbone?
I thought there were so many where I was like, well, I could say that, but I know the story because of Wishbone. Like, yeah, I never read Faust, but I know what happens. Like, I never read, the Count of Monte Cristo, but I know what happens. Like,
that's true.
Like, I know the stories very well with those, so it would be like cheating.
That's true. Well, I mean, that's even like mine. I had Pride and Prejudice on my list because I've never read it, but I
have it on mine.
Right? Oh, is it? Yes.
I have it on mine.
Yes.
I have it on
I've
mine.
tried. It's so boring. I can't do it. But I know the story well enough that I was like, I don't need to put this on the list because I know the story. Anyway, we're talking about Picture of Dorian Gray right now. So, Dorian Gray, you were not wrong about Victorian England and the weird emo guy.
Yes.
But the painting is it's not it is a painting of him. It's a portrait, but it is he is immortal because of this painting. And so every time he can go out and do all the bad stuff that he wants. He can be he can have as much debauchery as he wants because it all is reflected in the painting and not in him. And so the painting will age, but he will not. He will remain immortal in whatever it is. But if he looks at the painting, he will become that age. He will die.
So he can never look at the painting.
That's right. That's right. That's the picture of Dorian Gray.
So I knew there was something with the painting and looking at it, and
that's good. But you were right. It fell apart real fast. When you were like, he's in the painting, and then the weird Mr. Hyde comes out. Nope, those were wrong. But
I thought there was some kind of
He's just bad on his own. He doesn't need Mr. Hyde to tell him things.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Cool.
You ready for mine?
I'm ready for yours. Hit me.
This is I had one, but then I had one particular, and then I had to think about it, and I went, oh nope, none. So I will fess up. I've never read any novel by Mark Twain.
Oh wow, I'm actually surprised by that. That is genuinely surprising.
I've read some short stories, but my original one was Huckleberry Finn. I've never read it.
Wow.
Huck has a raft, and he's got a black friend, and they go down the river, and that's all that I know. And I imagine that they learn life lessons and battle a sea monster or something.
Yes.
Like I have, and there's somebody with a corncob pipe somewhere, and then and then Tom Sawyer probably appears really quickly and goes, "Help me paint my fence." No, okay, I already tricked you once. Bye. And that's all I've got.
Wow, I am surprised because I feel like you would appreciate Mark Twain, but I feel like you would appreciate Mark Twain only on your own terms. Like only if you were being forced to read it or someone told you like, oh, you'll really like this, maybe you wouldn't. But if you came to it on your own, I feel like you would actually enjoy it because there's this sort of respectable old man Americana about Mark Twain. sort of in the same way that you would say about, like, I don't know,
Ben
like
Franklin.
yes, actually, or a Bill Murray in our day and age. But yes, Ben Franklin's
Okay.
actually a better example of sort of the old timey, like true American man type of thing.
It's not that I have anything against Mark Twain.
No,
And
I understand.
I kind of want to put that out there. I don't have anything against the man. And I like a lot of what you hear about him and what he said and these like his isms and all of these different things.
Much like Ben Franklin.
Much like
The
Ben
isms.
Franklin. Exactly. But you know how you just like certain types of literature or you don't like certain settings, and I really don't care about like the deep South stuff at a particular time in American history.
Yeah,
a lot of what Mark Twain was writing about, it's just not something I have any connection to. And it's great that people do, and more power to you. There's just some bridge that I can't cross for me to take it.
That's really interesting. But whereas like a Nathaniel Hawthorne, old New England.
That's right.
17th, 18th, 19th century New England, you connect with much more, right?
Sure.
Because it's your
he's
not your
18
time period, but it's
he's 18th century.
Well, I meant
writing about the 17th century. Yeah,
correct, and not just beyond him. Like you tend to connect with things that are about New England.
Yes,
in that same time period that we're talking about with like the Old South. You do well with like the Old North.
Yes, that's right. And I don't really care about the Wild West either. It's the same.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Like I didn't read All Quiet on the Western Front for years because I thought it was about the American Western Front, like not World War One. And so. And you're nodding like you're like, that's what that book's about. Interesting. I'll add that to the list of things I haven't read.
Absolutely correct. I'm like, oh, cool. All right.
And so, so that's that. For the record, I still have not read All Quiet on the Western Front.
Neither have I. Not that I feel not that I know anything about. I'm not from the South. I don't have a connection to the South. But I feel like I appreciate that type of storytelling more than you do, and I don't really care for Nathaniel Hawthorne as much.
Well, I don't. So, I mean, that's a good example, but I don't really care for Nathaniel Hawthorne either. I really like The Minister's Black Veil. I like The Scarlet Letter, but I don't like the way that he writes. Like, I like the story, but I don't care for him. So, there's...
Okay. I guess I was talking more about like the time and place, the setting.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We could use The Crucible as another example of that. I know you're a fan of The Crucible.
I love The Crucible.
You love The Crucible.
So much. Do I love The Crucible? I could do a whole episode on The Crucible, Frank.
We could. You definitely could. On location. I don't really care as much about The Scarlet Letter or I almost said The Scarlet Witch. I don't care as much about Wanda or The Crucible as I do like I like Tom Sawyer more than I like Huckleberry Finn. But interesting, very interesting. Yeah, that is surprising. That is surprising to me that you're not really a Mark Twain guy. Do you remember what short stories of his that you've read? And did you like them?
It's been so long.
It's been a long time. Okay,
no, I
fair.
do not.
Fair, that's fair. If it's been a long time, I understand.
I remember vaguely liking an adaptation of a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court.
Yes,
but I never, and I know that Nick Offerman does the audiobook on Audible.
Ooh. And I've never read the book, but I saw a movie adaptation of it once that I really liked.
Right, yeah, but that's about as far as I've gotten.
Okay.
Maybe Prince of the Pauper is Mark Twain, right?
Ooh, you're testing me now. I'll use my one lookup on that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
the Prince and the Pauper. Yes, Mark Twain. Yep,
Mark Twain. Okay, great. All right. So, what is your next one?
I will go next with The Grapes of Wrath.
Oh, You pretend to have read Steinbeck, have you? Because I also pretend to read Steinbeck.
Oh, yeah?
Not that one. I
Okay.
have read of Mice and Men, and that ends what I've read of his.
Same. I've read it of Mice and Men, and that's it. But so because this is Steinbeck, I figure it probably has something to do with the Great Depression, or
it sure does.
the Dust Bowl,
I've seen
or
the
something.
film.
Oh, okay.
I had to watch
Henry
it.
Fonda, right?
Yep, I had to watch it for a history class. I remember liking it.
Well, so really, I sold this in the wrong order, because my first thought, like, Grapes of Wrath, what could that? I mean, like, I know that's a lyric from the Battle Hymn of the Republic. He is stomping out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. So I'm like, okay, it's from that. So it's probably something like American. If I wanted to be stupid, I'd be like, it's about a vineyard. But that just doesn't sound like a vineyard during the Great Depression that falls on hard times when everything gets dusty and dry. I just don't think that's really Steinbeck.
I think it is. I think that's what it is, though.
Is it actually about a vineyard? It can't
It's
be.
It's about an out of work guy. Oh my God, it's been
See, that's what I figure. Like an out of work guy with.
It's been about 15 years since I saw the film. Never mind having never read the book. So
Yeah.
but it might be about him trying to get work in the California vineyards.
Oh, going out west to find work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I imagine he's like a Midwesterner or Southerner or something who.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just totally going on like sort of the. Again, it's sort of like when you think Steinbeck, you think 1930s sort of all-American guy, hardworking laborer, farmer, whatever it took to get by. So yeah, I just sort of assume like, well, he's probably like Midwesterner or Southerner, and he's going out west, and he's. I mean, Grapes of Wrath sounds like it would be about wine, but hey, I mean that could be really anything. It could just be some kind of social commentary on Americana or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay. Cool.
You go ahead and do your next one.
Okay. I have never read The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway.
Mm-hmm.
Or The
I
Sun
did read
Also
that one.
Rises. Or any other Ernest Hemingway novels.
Okay.
I've read his short stories, but I've never, like, For Whom the Bell Tolls, blah, blah, none of them. Never read a single one. And I want to. I just haven't. Every time I think I'm in the mood to start one, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be depressing. And then I haven't. And I haven't. And I always forget which one is which. And so I'm like, oh yeah, For Whom the Bell Tolls. That's he's the matador in Spain, right? And people are like, nope, that's the one with the war in Italy. Oh, which war? There's been a few. And then I don't know if the Sun. I know The Old Man in the Sea is The Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah, that one's pretty self-explanatory.
That one's self, but I always mix up Sun Also Rises, which I think is the Spain and Matador one, and For Whom the Bell Tolls is the World War I nurse, and I think she falls in love with an ambulance driver or something, and it's kind of based on his life. I
was going to say that sounds like vaguely autobiographical. Ask not for whom the bell tolls; it tolls for thee.
What's the other famous Hemingway?
The Old Man in the Sea is the first thing that comes to my mind because that's what I've read of his. So yeah, I don't know. That's the first thing that I think of when I hear his name. Honestly, yeah, I don't know. I like The Old Man in the Sea.
Oh, you've read it? Oh,
yes, yes, I have. It's the only thing of his that I've read.
Tell me about it.
What do you think it's about?
Okay, I think it's about this man. I'm pretty sure it's about this man who's just trying so hard to catch a swordfish or something like that, and he just won't give up. And the swordfish is just like, I'm not sentient like you think I am, but I represent like your inner turmoil or some such nonsense like that. English major stuff. And then he's like, aha! But then he does catch the fish, and then he probably dies at the end before he can make it back to land.
You are not that far off.
Yes. See,
You are.
That's why I've never read it, because like you kind of learn how some stories just work, and then you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah,
but
I don't need
yeah,
to read
you
it.
do. But it's a little that's kind of an oversimplification of it, because it's like
Definitely, it's an oversimplification. Yeah,
but it's also like it's important because it's sort of the origin of like some of those literary devices, or maybe not the origin, but one of the early really good examples of a certain style in a certain genre. So it's like saying, oh, I don't really care about superhero movies or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you need to watch Superman the movie,
right?
Or so, like you need to watch.
It may not be the best one, but it is certainly one of the most important.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, but I've seen that done a million times before. And it's like, but this is really important one that you should, like, as a fan of film or as a fan of the genre, you should really experience this, because this is like the one that started it all.
I'm glad that you said that, because I am actually a big fan of going back to the original one, the one that started it all. I like to see where things started, and no one's ever really said The Old Man and the Sea is, something that started it all.
To say that it's the one that started it all is probably not strictly true, because it came out in like the 40s or the 50s. So I am, it can't be the first of anything, right? But what it probably is a good example of usage of the kind of themes and the kind of plot devices that you're referring to, that you just called like English major stuff or lit major stuff, whatever it was you just called it.
My career,
your career.
I can make fun of it because it's my career.
You can make fun of it, yes. So yeah, I feel like calling it that is easy, but it's like, well, that became considered English major stuff because of books like this one, and this is like an early example of those sorts of things all culminating in one story. I can't tell whether you would like it or hate it, to be honest, because it's how are you with like authors who use a lot of words to be very descriptive of every little detail in the and he walked into the room and it smelled of peppercorn, and he saw the sun gleaming on the grandfather clock as it struck 12 with the moon on its face spinning and swirl, like every little descriptive little detail.
I've already started putting the book back on the shelf.
Okay, so
and
he's a little like that.
Yeah.
The one thing though is he does it in a way.
My mind to do that.
So he does that, but he does it in a way that, and this is where I figured you didn't like that. But the thing you might like about him, and this is why I can't decide if you'd like him or not, is he's doing that, but all those little details are symbolism and are allegorical of the bigger things happening in the story.
Then I like it because it has a purpose. But if you're just telling me about I think the Bronte sisters are kind of like a good example of this, because like if you are spending 4 pages telling me about the watercolors that don't actually matter to anywhere else in the story, you're just explaining them for the sake of explaining them because you want a bigger page count or something that, then no dice. I'm not interested.
It's not like Dickens, where he was literally getting paid by the word to print these in like a newspaper.
That's right.
So this is done with a purpose, but it's done in sometimes in such a subtle way that you don't know what the purpose is until you're like rereading the book, and you're like, oh my god, this was a mini allegory just in like the painting on the wall. He described the painting on the wall and that painting was an allegory for the entire story, and I didn't catch it till I went back and looked at it the second time. So it's one of those things where it's like it may seem pointless when you're going through it, but it actually is sort of a meta commentary.
Then I like it, and
then you might like it. There's a couple things in particular I think of in The Old Man of the Sea that are like very, very symbolic.
All right.
Do you have any more on your list? Because we're just about at time. Maybe it'd be fun to power through them, however many you have left. Each of us has left. Just say like, I've never read this, and this is what I think it's about.
Okay, so I only have one more on the list.
Okay,
and it's actually a comic book. So I'm not sure if that was faux pas or not. I wasn't sure if we were gonna do like comics we've said we've read but we haven't, or but I don't think we are. So because I don't know if there's enough to go around And if we haven't read them, we probably know what they're about at the same time.
Yeah, and if I haven't read one, I'll just admit it usually. Like, I
Right.
don't feel the same pressure to be like, oh, I guess I have to pretend.
I agree. Smaller community, except this is the one that I feel pressure on. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I've never read Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, I know that.
Oh, dang it.
You told me that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is brand new information. No, I knew that. We've talked about it, and you've basically said, like, yeah, I know what it's about at this point, and it just seems like a long thing to read, and it doesn't matter.
I really want to read it. Actually, reading that Slugfest book, which you're halfway through, they talk about.
I got up to that part, yeah.
And so, like, that made me want to actually sit down and read it, and so perhaps I will. Frank, what is left on your list?
But
Before.
one word on Crisis.
Okay.
As somebody who really I read comics and I pay more attention to the words and you pay more attention to the art.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like George Perez's art will really, like, even if you just flip through it and mostly look at the pictures, like, if you don't want to read it, but like you pick up an Absolute Edition and thumb through it, or even a hardcover, whatever. The really striking thing about Crisis is George Perez's art and how just hundreds of characters on any given page. It's just like, here's every incarnation of every Justice League character ever all together. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to see how he draws just like dozens and dozens of people on a page, and they all are dynamic and look the way they're supposed to look. That's kind of one of the more cool things about the story. The story itself is really cool, but you can just kind of leaf through it.
I definitely know the story at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's actually, George Perez is one of the reasons that I really did want to flip through it and go through it. So I'll get there.
Yeah.
Frank, what is left on your list really quickly?
I've got a couple really quickly. So Anna Karenina. An old Russian lady is on her deathbed and looks back on her life. I don't know.
Oh my God, absolutely not. No. Oh my God.
So you read it?
Oh, it's not even close. Anyway,
that
continue.
That one is purely based on the name. I'm like, yeah, it's an old Russian lady. I don't know, whatever.
You were right with the Russian. Continue.
Okay. Great. I'll take that. I'll take partial credit. You mentioned Pride and Prejudice. Mr. Darcy is a jerk. I'm not even sure if that's the right one.
Yep,
but there we go.
that is correct. I mean,
Cool.
that was on my list too. We had already talked about it. So
Yeah. David Copperfield. I don't know. Magician maybe? Probably not.
Nope. I haven't read it myself, but I know it's not that. Yeah.
I know too. That was more of a joke.
No,
I really have no idea. It's just some guy named David Copperfield. I don't know, but I know there's the magician named that. So and then finally, Wuthering Heights.
I've only read bits of Wuthering Heights. I've been to that town. I've been to the hills and the moors that they write about, and like the literal heights that she's writing about. What do you think the story's about? I would love to hear what you think.
So
Wuthering
when
Heights
they
is
say
about.
heights, they mean like a mountain and not like a really tall tower like in Rapunzel?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. It's like
So
the
not
it's like
a Rapunzel tower.
the rolling hills of Scotland.
So you're saying this book is not about a Rapunzel tower?
Nope, not even close.
Then in that case, it's probably about a mountain. Is what I'm gonna say. No, I was gonna. What I actually had down. I'm being.
I
stupid.
know you are.
What I actually had down was Victorian love story.
Yep, nailed it.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Is there death and murder and
Yep, and there's a lot of that. And
Yeah.
you probably have heard the name Heathcliff before.
Nope.
Okay, well there you go.
Is it a cliff
Heathcliff?
in the book? Is it a person
It's a person.
or is it a cliff?
It's a person.
Does he get pushed off a cliff?
There's a Monty Python skit
Okay.
that they act out Wuthering Heights with flag signals.
Oh yes. Semaphore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's
seen that.
That's all you need. That's fine.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, Good job, team. You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com and Facebook and Gmail and Twitter. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio to support all of our Thought Bubble audio endeavors. To support this show specifically, you can head over to iTunes and rate and review us over there. You can also find us on all other places podcasts can be found, including but not limited to Spotify, Google Play, and Overcast. You can also find Frank over at the Stark Expo at DragonCon this year, hanging with some very cool people. Frank, why don't you tell them all about that?
Yeah, well, we're putting on a night of live podcasting for charity. It's going the proceeds will be going to generosity.org. They're going to help bring clean drinking water to people who don't have any. They're going to dig wells and that kind of thing. They're a great organization, and they are near and dear to the heart of Brian Austin Green, the actor from 90210 and Smallville and Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. He has a podcast called With Brian Austin Green, which he hosts with my friend Derek. The both of them will be there doing a live with Brian Austin Green. Steve Glosson will be there doing live Geek Out Loud. Derek and I and the rest of the guys will probably do some live shoe, Starkville House of L. Graham Hancock from the 10th Wonder Heroes podcast will be there. Dane Davenport will be providing live music. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're all going to be doing live podcasts. You can come hang out with us, meet us, chill out. It's going to be a great time. Tickets are on sale. Again, the money's going to charity. And you'll get to be in the same room as Brian Austin Green, which is pretty cool. Tickets are on sale at starkexpolive.eventbrite.com. I'll put a link in the show notes. And VIP tickets have already sold out, and the general admission tickets are starting to go, so make sure to get on it while you still can. We'll be in Atlanta September 1st. Switch Yards is the name of the venue. It's very close to DragonCon if you're going to be at DragonCon that weekend, where I will also be. So check it out. Come hang out with us. Have a good time. Do help out a good cause, and we'll have a good time.
Good stuff. Okay, Frank, this was fun. One last question before we go. Which one are you going to read first now that we've gone through this list?
Definitely the picture of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Excellent. Good choice. I, for real, am going to do Crisis on Infinite Earths first.
Oh, good.
But I think you have hit me with your best shot on Old Man in the Sea.
I kind of did, didn't I?
Yeah,
it's a backdoor best shot. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'm going to give that one a shot. So
cool. Yeah, give it a spin.
Yeah, very good, Frank. Well, okay, then until next time.
Cheers.